Hey, I know what we're gonna analyze. The episodes in season 5. Hope it brings you laughter. This is Afterferb. Welcome to episode 1 of a brand new podcast, never before heard, never before seen. We call it Afterferb, the Phineas and Ferb discussion podcast. Woo! My name is Alex. I'm coming to you all the way from Montreal, Canada. And joined with me, my two co-hosts, coming to me from the very same room on the opposite side of the continent. It's Andrew and it's Zach. What's going on, my friends?
Hello.
We are reporting live from North Hollywood, California.
Well, that's pretty specific. We could just say Los Angeles.
North Hollywood is still big enough. They're not going to find us.
Yeah, but now they're going to find our address.
They're not going to find our address. It's fine.
Yep. Anyway, if you want to find their address, I'm kidding.
No, don't do that.
Yeah. Okay, so some of you may have heard Phineas and Ferb revival is starting very soon, almost right now. So we decided to have a podcast about it, to talk about it, because we like talking about it anyway. Figured might as well do it in front of a microphone.
May as well share our thoughts with all of our fans that have put up with us geeking out over Phineas and Ferb since 2020. May as well, keep the trend going.
Yeah, I don't know if people knew this, but we actually know a bit and have looked pretty closely at Phineas and Ferb throughout our time working on M.W.C.A. So I think we're at least somewhat qualified to talk about this.
Yeah, so I guess this podcast is like, we are having it technically like under the MWCA umbrella brand. Like, this is MWCA Presents. Are we committing to that?
In a way, yeah. I'd say so.
All right. Hell yeah. Okay, so yeah, but people who are listening to this have probably heard of MWCA. Andrew, I don't know if you want to provide a little quick background just in case.
MWCA, or the Musical Without a Cool Acronym, is a Phineas and Ferb parody musical that I wrote in from like 2016 to 2019. It originally premiered as a in-person musical at my university in Maryland. And then during the pandemic, we did another virtual production. And that is the one that is on YouTube, that has tons of videos. It's how I met a lot of really great friends. That's how I met my current roommates. And yeah, it's about like a 2.5 hour musical, and then we also have dozens of other videos and song covers and parodies and just miscellaneous Phineas and Ferb fan content that you can peruse.
That was a great pitch. That was a great logline for those who might not be familiar with our work on MWCA. Good job. Good elevator pitch.
Yeah, my interest in Phineas and Ferb, it does go back to, when I was a kid. I was like 5 when Roller Coaster came out, and I was 6 when the series was actually premiering. And I watched it over the years, but I don't think I actually really got that into it in like a fandom sense until actually Disney Plus came around in 2019, and I was watching it again, and I kind of realized like, oh wow, this is actually really good. And then a few months later, I find out about MWCA, and then the virtual edition, and the rest is history, I guess. But why don't the two of you share your respective Phineas and Ferb backgrounds?
Yeah.
As far as me, I was kind of late to the Phineas and Ferb fan train, and by late I only mean like a couple years late. I didn't really start watching until 2009, 2010, but I enjoyed it as a kid. But then upon revisiting it when I was a teenager, so many jokes I realized went over my head as a kid, and I just developed such an appreciation for the show, the writing, the music, and how it really appeals to all ages. And then as a musical theater actor, I knew the SpongeBob musical was a success, and I always dreamed of maybe playing Phineas in a Phineas and Ferb musical. But what were the odds of that happening? But then, lo and behold,
I always dreamed of playing Albert Dubois in a musical.
Yeah, no, and you killed it.
Oh, thank you.
During the 2020 pandemic, I discovered MWCA on Andrew's TikTok, and I thought, that was probably a cool college project. But then once auditions for the virtual production were announced, I had to hop on it. I was fortunate enough to get cast as Phineas, and then being surrounded on Discord and Zoom by people like Andrew, Alex, and diehard fans of this show really gave me a sense of community, and it also really solidified my role in my existing friend groups as the Phineas and Ferb guy. Now it's just that, but heightened even more.
Well, you're not the Phineas and Ferb guy in our friend group.
Yeah,
our
no.
friend group is the Phineas and Ferb.
And our
one.
friend group, we're all the Phineas and Ferb guy. But like Andrew said, it really forged MWCA some of the closest friendships in my life. Andrew and I are now roommates. My partner Julia was in MWCA, and she's one of our roommates. And I'm so thankful. Not only that the
Don't
show
forget
exists,
Ben.
and
You
I
can
go
mention
back.
Ben too.
And Ben, yes. I'm not trying to dox our entire apartment, but here we go.
Now they're all gonna know we live in North Hollywood.
Damn it. But anyway, I'm very thankful for the show. And I thought the ending back in 2015 was about as perfect of an ending as it can be. But then I also really, really enjoyed Candace Against the Universe. So I figured that there were more stories that these characters could tell, and up to the point where I actually wrote a couple of spec scripts of Phineas and Ferb episodes. I think I wrote 3 of them. Alex actually helped me write songs for all 3 of them. And then this revival was announced, which just heightened my excitement even more.
Yeah, Zach, I remember that one of the first memories I have of talking to you about Phineas and Ferb was when you said that your favorite song was Rubber Band's Rubber Balls. And I was kind of thinking, like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? But
Okay,
I'd
look.
be interested to know if that's still the case.
I think my appreciation for music has grown more since then. That being said, I didn't want to be one of those basic Phineas and Ferb fans that said any of the season 1 songs or Summer Belongs to You. I wanted to have an answer that was a legitimate answer, but was also, not a deep cut, but like, who says that that's their favorite song? So maybe part of it was me trying to be pretentious, but also I do genuinely really like that song, and it still gets me hyped to this day. And then also, I do kind of feel a full circle moment right here, because one of my first conversations with you, Alex, was on your podcast, Disney Channel Discourse.
That's true.
And we've now become such good friends. And it's insane that our first real conversation as friends was on a podcast. But I think it's fun that we're doing another one 4.5 years later.
Hell yeah. So I guess you're saying you kind of stick with that answer, but kind of don't.
I stick with the answer to be funny, but I think if I'm being legitimate, it's probably one of Summer Belongs to You or Us Against the Universe, or one of those, songs that is kind of indicative of the show's message as a whole. And honestly, Summer is Starting Right Now. I'm not saying that's my favorite, but I think it is kind of indicative of the show and is going to work its way into the upper pantheon of Phineas and Ferb songs.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Maybe not S tier, but definitely A tier or B tier.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think for me it's Snacks by Linda.
Eggs and bacon. Yeah, that's my number one.
I forgot about that one. I'm a fake fan, apparently.
Do you remember where you were on January 13th, 2023, when you found out there was going to be a revival?
Yes, I do, but actually, Andrew, you go first.
I remember, Alex, that on the Discord, like, everybody was posting. Actually, I think we were in the middle of our MWCA Sings Imagine chain.
Yep.
We made a video that was sort of parodying that Gal Gadot video where she tried to bring celebrities together during the pandemic. Like, we were just going in order singing lines from the song, like, imagine there's no heaven, and somebody in our server, Brian, for his turn he started singing and then just went, Phineas and Ferb is coming back with all new episodes, and we were just like, oh!
He said, this is how you found out.
Yeah, this is how you found out, and I think for a lot of us it was.
Yep.
And I remember, Alex, you being, at least outwardly, very, very surprised, like, no way, I can't imagine this. And then I sort of poked fun a little bit by sharing all of the many articles and sound bites.
Let me set the record
miscellaneous
straight on
things.
this. I was taken out of context in severe and slanderous fashion when I said no one saw this coming. I was under the impression that at some point Phineas and Ferb would be rebooted. There was Candace Against the Universe, Danny and Swampy had hinted at it heavily, and there was. What's the name of there was like D20 or whatever it's called that had happened.
D23.
T23, that's the one. That had happened like 2 months before. And a lot of people were saying, Dan and Swampy were talking, here comes the announcement. And there's no announcement. And everyone's like, oh, I guess it's not happening. And
Yeah.
so at that point, it was like people saw it coming, and at that announcement, people would have seen it coming. But on January 13th, there was no lead up, there was no anticipation, there was no event. So it was just kind of a bolt from the blue on some random Friday or whatever it was. And that's what I meant by
That's
no one saw
fair.
this coming. So now that we got that all clear, I can rest. I can sleep easy.
No, but I mean, it was a surprise in terms of the timing. You're right. I think that D23 you're talking about, Dan and Swampy ended up just like rapping about Disney branded television, which almost makes me wonder if that was initially supposed to be a Phineas and Ferb reveal, and then the details just weren't ready yet.
Probably. Yeah, Swampy wasn't signed on yet.
It didn't surprise me that it was coming back. I think especially after Candace Against the Universe got going. I mean, when you think about it, even though Phineas and Ferb ended in 2015, I think it never truly went away. I mean, right after Phineas ended, Milo Murphy's Law came out, and eventually we got characters from Milo Murphy's Law in that show, for better or worse. Then there was, Candace Against the Universe, and Dan Povenmire's TikTok, and he's doing, Doofenshmirtz bits all the time. And then there's been the Disney Chibi shorts, where they put characters from Phineas and Ferb in that. And if you follow closely interviews with people like Dan and Swampy, like we do because we're freaks, like you'll find them all the time just saying, "Oh yeah, we're always open to doing more with these characters. If there's a story to tell, I wouldn't rule anything out. We'd love to tell more stories with these characters." So I think it was kind of a question of when, not if. And I'm excited that there's a new proper season coming along. I think one of my I don't know whether to call it a hope or a fear, but I guess the fear would be that as much as I love Phineas and Ferb, I think it had a really great ending, and I don't think it necessarily needs more, if more of just the standard formula. That's not to say that doing more of that couldn't be great, but I guess my hope would be that they find some nuance and some ways to sort of elevate the show beyond that. There's been bits of character development that have come toward the end of the series through Last Day of Summer, or even through like Candace Against the Universe, or even just close to the end of season 4, like Stacy knowing about Perry's secret. And my hope would be that if it ever does come back, that it's a new summer and some of those nuances affect what episodes now look like. And so far, I think they're kind of doing that, and that makes me really happy.
I think they're doing a pretty good job with it as well. I know we haven't really started talking about the preview yet, but even what they're doing with Linda, and I'm not even talking about the end of the preview, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, we'll save that for later.
Listen to us.
I know, but even just Linda saying like how much she wants to spend time with the boys this summer, like that adds emotional stakes, and the show as a whole seems more mature. Like, it does seem like it's taking place a year later. It's acknowledging what's happened in the past. It's not just going to be 25 episodes of the same stuff that we're used to. I mean, there are going to be some filler episodes, for lack of a better term, but I do think that they are continuing to add to what they have built upon already versus just, going through the motions. And that's mainly what I was worried about. I didn't want the revival to not have a point. But based on this preview, it feels like this revival exists for a reason, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. And to answer the question that Alex asked a while back, I was in New York when they announced it. I was visiting Julia, who lived in New York at the time, and we were geeking out about it. And then to confirm that Brian wasn't pulling our leg, we went onto TikTok, and sure enough, the very first thing we saw was Dan's TikTok announcement.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I'm going to completely agree with what has been said so far about like Linda and the sneak peek. And I guess now we are talking about the sneak peek, so let's talk about it.
Yeah.
That was like... Oh, yeah?
Should we just, to quickly, to make it clear for viewers listening, on this episode we're going to be discussing the extended sneak peek they released of the first episode of Season 5, Summer Blockbuster. It's a 9-minute segment that they released, presumably the first of 2 parts of that episode. That's what we're talking about today.
Yep. That's what we're talking about today, and then moving forward we're going to be talking about the rest of them, the rest of the episodes that we haven't seen yet. But,
well, we'll watch them before we talk about
not today. Need to emphasize that for everyone listening.
The coming weeks. The coming weeks. It's it's more than one episode in this podcast, we hope. But okay. I was completely in agreement with everything that you were saying. and in particular, the angle that they're going with Linda saying, I didn't spend enough time with you last summer, and this summer I want to make a conscious effort to spend more time with you, is an extremely clever way of upping the stakes and making it.
Oh yeah.
And making it like I can't conceptualize now how they're going to avoid her seeing everything beyond her. You know, like she got zapped and like became vapor, and she's probably gonna come back in part 2 or whatever. And then we've seen in other.
Are you sure she's not just dead?
I'm pretty sure she's not just dead because we've seen her in like clips later on.
No,
in the
yeah,
season.
she's Also, the name of the second episode is Cloudy with a Chance of Mom.
Yeah, slight spoiler there.
Oh my goodness, it is? Okay.
Well, to be fair, it says chance, so we don't know for sure.
Yeah, if it was cloudy with Mom, we would know for sure.
Yeah, if Cloudy with Mom would
with
be
a
a
chance
spoiler.
of Mom, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a chance Mom does not reign, I guess, in episode 2. I guess only the future knows. I guess we'll see. But yeah, and the whole like, oh, the kids are growing up so fast, which by the way, it's funny in and of itself because they've been like 10 years old for like 18 years now, so they're actually growing up extremely slowly.
Yeah.
But
Phineas has an extra stripe now, indicating time passage.
Is the stripe an indicator of age?
It's like how trees
have rings, but Phineas gets stripes?
Yeah.
Yeah, no idea. Swampy did say, I think it was Swampy who said basically like we're giving him an extra stripe to make him look taller, but he's actually not taller at all.
Wait, but they're horizontal stripes. Why would that doesn't make you look taller? Vertical stripes make you look taller.
I like how this is your only flaw with this logic.
Yeah, I'm 5'6". I know what it's like to be short and have people want you to be taller.
I don't know. Also, I'm very amazed by the people who like pay attention to artistic details like that because I didn't notice that extra stripe at all. I don't count the stripes.
That's Andrew for you.
Oh, I notice stuff like that all the time. They have Pedro in there with the kids. He's his race has changed. He's darker now.
And if you know who Pedro is, you're listening to the right podcast.
Pedro.
Okay, you know what?
Yeah, there's not really too many other overt design changes. I mean, I think the animation looks different, and that's a rabbit hole we don't necessarily have to get into. But yeah, I think Phineas and some of the incidentals are the only things that have been like deliberately changed.
Well, I know that you were talking about how Vanessa has a different color
Oh,
scheme.
that's right. Yeah, so for whatever reason, I think it started with Milo Murphy's Law. When Vanessa was on an episode of that show, they used a different color palette for her. I think that was originally like her shaded color palette, and then they used it again for Candace Against the Universe, and they're using it again here. And it's like really minor. I don't think the average viewer will notice, but it's kind of weird because Vanessa did change colors a little bit too.
Yeah. Again, like those kinds of artistic things, I find very interesting because I'm not a particularly like visually inclined person. I can't draw or anything like that. So when people point that out, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. But there's some like our artist friends will be like, I cannot stop thinking about that extra stripe on Phineas's shirt. It's so distracting.
Well, the amount of times
that's kind of crazy.
I've walked into the apartment and Andrew's been upset about an inaccurate SpongeBob render on something. I mean, it's been less than 5, but more than 1. So
yeah. No, I mean, those subtle things I don't think are the biggest. Are the biggest visual difference. I think the animation as a whole just looks like different. It's not the same studio that was doing the old show. It's the studio that's doing Hamster and Gretel right now.
It's funny, like in a way, Andrew and I have talked about how Hamster and Gretel sometimes feels very Disney Junior, and I do think the animation style does look a little different, little Disney Junior. That being said, I don't think the script feels too young.
Oh yeah, no, the writing is great.
Yeah, so the writing, at least what we saw in these first 10 minutes, was spectacular because it was a reintroduction to those of us that are super familiar with Phineas and Ferb, while also being understandable and accessible for those who might be tuning in to Phineas and Ferb for the very first time. Like, it really quickly establishes what their deal is, it establishes who Perry is, establishes who Doof, it establishes everything super quickly. And even Doof saying, I know, my scheme's a little basic, but we have to start small, you know? I think that's a really great way to bring the loyal fans in as well as the new fans in. And the entire reason why I bring it up is that even if the animation style looks like it's targeting a younger audience, I don't believe the show as a whole is doing that.
Well, I don't think the animation style is targeting a younger audience. I think it just gives those vibes because they're using a lot more like keyframing, and
That's a better way of phrasing what I said.
it definitely. I know this is like controversial, whatever. I think it's a little worse. I don't think it's got quite the same level of quality as the old show used to have, and that's probably just due to budget. I don't think it's anything to do with like the talent of the team. But that said, I think when you like pause an individual frame, like they all look fine.
It looks great.
Just like the motion itself that takes some getting used to.
Yeah, it's kind of like, Zach, to what you were saying before about like how they set up Doof again, they set up Candace again and the kids and all that really quickly. I think there is this sort of accessibility to a newer audience, but at the same time, they kind of go so fast through the things that they expect you already that you already know. Like if someone, I don't know if anyone's going into season 5 cold, having never seen Phineas and Ferb before, but they see these kids in school, and then all of a sudden there's this other random guy singing, "I've tried to be good and now I'm evil again," and then this cut over to, and then they're like, "Oh hey, where's Perry?" And they cut over to a platypus. Like without context, you don't know that platypus is named Perry. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily meant to serve as an introduction to the series. I think it's meant to serve as a refresher.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it achieves that goal.
Yeah, she's really well because they set up like very, very quickly, kind of like, all right, they decide what to build. They start building something. They have a very short montage of them building it. They have, like Perry doesn't spend too much time in the lair. He goes to fight evil. And it all kind of feels like routine. It feels a little bit season 4, to be honest, which is, I think, part of the reason why Linda dying in the last second of the episode actually hits really hard because you're not expecting a major subversion because it's episode number 1. You're expecting like, okay,
well,
they'll stick to the formula,
the best way to phrase
and
it.
then they'll stick to the formula, and then maybe later on they'll do something really crazy with it. But the crazy, it comes right away. It comes right off the top. I love it.
I actually kind of disagree with your take that it's very season 4. It feels very season 3 to me because I feel like season 4 was when they were really starting to mess with the formula. And when I said this was a good reintroduction, I think it's just because it is very formulaic. Doof's scheme is very basic. We quickly find out the boys build things. We find out that Doof is bad. We find out that Candace wants to bust them. It doesn't really subvert the formula until that end punch. And what an end punch it is. I know Dan and Swampy had mentioned, I think, at an expo a couple weeks prior that there was going to be a character getting killed off. And a lot of people were suspecting Miss Fireside just because she's old and Cloris Leach. Well, it's because Cloris Leachman, who voiced her, passed away, and she's an old character. But who remembers Miss Fireside?
They implied it was like a major character.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Norm for a while, just because.
Well, he's died before.
He's died before, and he's a robot. And also, Andrew and I met John Viner like a year ago. And
oh yeah, he was like, I have not recorded anything for the new series yet.
So I thought that'd be an easy thing, but then to see that it's Linda, that immediately makes the most sense when it comes to how is this season going to be different, or how is this premiere going to be different. I think Linda, I'm so excited to see what they do with Cloudy with a Chance of Mom, which out of context is a very funny name.
Yeah, just to back it up a little bit, not to put off talking about the Linda drop too long, but just going back into like how I think this is both an introduction and a subversion of expectations. Mm-hmm. I really like how Candace first reacts to Phineas and Ferb building things, because it both is a continuation of her pattern and also it's evolved. If you look at Roller Coaster, they're building something and she's all like, oh, why are you doing this? She's very like perturbed and annoyed by it and like, why do they get to have fun? Whereas in this, she just very slightly goes, why not build them all? Like, she knows what she's getting into, and she's just kind of like, it to some degree it has a level of acceptance that this is what her life is. And it's small, but I think that level of nuance is exactly what I was looking for in a revival like this.
This is a very weird comparison, but it's kind of like when Survivor contestants lose on their initial season, but then they're brought back for another season, and they try to play the game a little differently because they know where it went wrong. So Candace is trying to be like, okay, last summer, every time I tried to stop it, it didn't work, so let's just let it happen. And then on top of that, that also shows maturity on Candace's part. I mean, she still wants to bust the boys, but also, hey, I'm a bit older now. Let's try a different approach.
Sure.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I liked it. It's kind of, you can sort of tell she's been thinking about this the past 9 months, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess she also is like, I guess this was more implied that in the finale of season 4, she's like giving up busting for good. But I don't know. That was the one thing I was kind of like, I sort of liked how they ended that one off, and there's not much reference to like a relapse for her as there is with Doof, but I don't know, small detail.
So the end of season 4 is not the only instance in which Candace has had like a heart-to-heart with her brother. I mean, like that happened at the end of Summer Belongs to You. She kind of like learns to just like appreciate and make the most of her summer. Even something like Traffic Cam Caper in season 1, she's like, okay, this isn't everything. And then Candace Against the Universe, I know it came later, but timeline-wise takes place in the middle of that first summer. I don't think any of those, in my opinion, drew a line in the sand that like Candace will never try to get them in trouble again. Mm-hmm. I think to me, the biggest lesson she takes away is just trying to like have fun along the way and, you know, when it matters, if she has to prioritize her family or her goals, she prioritizes her family.
Yeah.
And so that to me, I think, is not like the most jarring. I think it could have been interesting to see a version of Candace that isn't trying to bust her brothers at all, but I also think that may have made it more difficult for her to be as integral to all the stories as she is.
It's so ingrained in the formula of the show.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
You can subvert it, but you still need to have it. Also, while we're on the topic of Candace, shout out to Ashley Tisdale for still sounding so great in this role after all these years. Also, the entire voice cast is killing it.
I really like how Alison Stoner sounds. Mm-hmm. I think she sounds very natural, kind of like how she did in season 1 or Candace Against the Universe. I'm a big fan.
And Vincent Martella screaming, "Mom!" like at the end. So heartbreaking.
Oh, that moment's so jarring because you don't hear Phineas be distressed like that like 99% of the time.
Yeah, angsty Phineas.
Makes it hit
not,
really
not
hard.
often seen.
Yeah.
Also, I do think that Candace did also sound like a year older. Like, she didn't sound like an adult or anything like that.
Well, she's a mom now.
Well, I wonder if they were making a...
Yes, not Candace.
I wonder if they were making a joke of that, because she does kind of go, "Wah, ha, 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 ha," and then does clear her throat. And I wonder if that's sort of a meta joke, or maybe I'm reading too much into it.
I know Ashley Tisdale, at one point during the production of this season, was talking about how she was like being asked to do more Candace screams, and she was like, "Can't you guys just pull some from the archives? You have enough."
Yeah, also because she like was pregnant while recording for at least part of this season.
Wait, she was?
Yeah.
Yeah, she has 2 kids now.
I don't know about Ashley Tisdale's personal life.
Okay, well,
that's sick.
That's
though.
weird for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Zach, what's
Good for
wrong
her.
with you?
I'm busy.
Ashley Tisdale. Yeah, I thought all the characters sounded good. I even think Doof had a little bit of an accent. Obviously not like season 1, but it was a step closer in that direction, and I liked it more than some other recent Doof.
Wait, I'm just now realizing something. In this entire part, do we hear the platypus sound once?
Not yet.
Don't
I don't
know.
think.
I guess they haven't reintroduced Perry's signature noise yet.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know if they need new sounds for that. I feel like D. Bradley Baker probably has given them.
No, he has everything. It's just I was just wondering if we even heard it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
Not yet. Well, we haven't seen Perry with Phineas and Ferb yet.
That's true.
Except for during Summer is Starting Right Now, there's a shot where Candace is looking out the window at Phineas and Ferb in the backyard with Perry. But also, I think that's non-diegetic because 2 seconds later it cuts to Phineas and Ferb in the street dancing again. So I think that's just kind of a what if moment.
Yeah. Yeah, what if Perry was there singing and dancing with them? We'll never know.
Yeah, or like a reflection of what's to come.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the beginning, how I guess we sort of saw it coming, but how odd was it for you to see them in class?
Not as hard as seeing front-facing Baljeet.
I was scrolling through the episode just now to find the part we're talking about, and front-facing Baljeet popped up. I liked it. I mean, we saw them like ever so briefly in Doof 101 being in school. Mm-hmm. I think it's cool that they established it as middle school and not like elementary school. I've always had the headcanon that these characters are 10. I know some people think they might be a little younger. I'm like, no, 10 feels right to me, and if now they're like 11, I think them being in middle school makes sense.
My only qualm with that is that an actor age when they say going forward 10 years later.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's its own issue. Yeah, I don't think Phineas and Ferb would be graduating high school at 20.
But then again, if they went to a community college for 2 years and then they were transferring to a university, that can make sense. We don't have time to go down this rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
I think
Anyway.
Act Your Age is just its own special weird case.
Yeah. Middle school makes sense. You're right.
Yeah,
So what, in
I like
the
seeing
U.S.,
them in-
what age, like what grade does middle school start in? Because I thought it was like grade 6.
It's 6 through 8.
Unless you're in
Okay.
California, it's 7.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay, I don't know, because whatever, it doesn't really matter. But anyway, I enjoyed the fact also that I liked that teacher character that we're probably never gonna see again.
Oh yeah,
Because
she's
I was
got
half-
kind of an interesting design. I like her small pupils.
I was half expecting her to kind of rolling her eyes like, okay, sure, Phineas, you have such a great imagination, and and then the fact that
I
she's
think
also
it's
just
just the
like
show's
dancing along to
commitment.
the song. I was like, okay, this teacher's fun.
I think it's the show's commitment to no characters are idiots or jerks.
Yeah.
They this is a show that portrays kids in a positive light. It portrays adults in a positive light. And I know that, if you go all the way back to season 1, I think Phineas at that moment in time does have a little bit of like a stick it to the man mentality. Like, they're going to ask us what we did in school. Are we going to be boring? But, the show did mature over time. And I think it makes sense that them coming back to school is them boasting about their adventures, but with a little bit less of a rebellious attitude, more just a fun-loving attitude.
I never viewed Phineas as a stick it to the man guy, but now I love that.
I'm talking about like the literal pilot.
I know you're talking
Where
about
he's
the pilot.
he's like, we're not going to do...
But now I'm just picturing Phineas at protests and in a rock band and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wait, that actually, I didn't even think of that. That's probably an intentional callback to the first scene of Roller Coaster where he's going, when we're back in school, they're going to ask us what we did this summer. And then the revival starts with exactly that. That went over my head completely.
I noticed that quickly. That's one of the things I really like about this.
Also, on this frame that we're on right now, we're scrolling through the YouTube video as we talk about this. I do love that the Fireside Girls, with the exception of Isabella, are just always in their Fireside Girl outfit, even when they're in school.
That I was kind of hoping they would give them actual designs, but I suppose if they're gonna go right back into their Fireside uniforms for the summer itself, it didn't make sense.
Why would they not wear their Fireside Girl clothes to school?
Well, because presumably they have other clothing, like
Nope.
Isabella does.
Nope.
Okay, but by that logic, Phineas should have other clothing, but he's still in his... They're just cartoon characters, man.
Yeah, I guess. And Django's still wearing his bathing suit because he was introduced in the beach episode.
He was so ready to get out of school. He's getting out of school and immediately going into the pool.
Yeah. There's also I think with the exception of Fireside Girls and Django and Irving, a lot of the incidentals are kind of just new characters we haven't seen before. And then some of them are returning, but with just their hair colors, skin colors change, which is kind of interesting.
Choreo in this number, by the way, is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
That song, I was telling Andrew the other day, at first I didn't really grab me, Summer Starting Right Now, from the beginning, but it's grown on me a lot. I think the reason for that is I love it as a commercial sting. That's perfect. That in the promos and stuff when you have the instrumental chorus, da 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 da. It almost sounds like King of New York a little bit from Newsies.
Oh yeah.
But
shout out Newsies.
Yeah, shout out to Newsies. But I really like it because it is kind of the hybrid between the old and the new. It is so distinctly the Phineas and Ferb sound. It has the same tempo, the Summer
but it's
Belongs
also
to
a
You
new
type,
song.
Summer All Over the World type. But it's new. It's got the cool minor 5 harmony thing going on in the chorus. And it's I
feel like if I played this song to a casual fan of Phineas and Ferb, they would assume that it's from the original run of the series.
Unless they listen to the lyrics.
Unless they listen to the lyrics, but I feel like it fits right in tonally and stylistically.
Oh, definitely. Mm-hmm. I think I remember finding it interesting that they did the song "We're Back" for Candace Against the Universe, and then they announced the series coming back, and I was like, oh, that almost would have made more sense when the series was returning proper. But in retrospect, no, a song singing about how it's a new summer is almost necessary for a season like this. So I like what they did with it. Mm-hmm. I really like the backing vocals. I think you can hear Alison Stoner, and I'm assuming Malik Panchali. They got some of the actual voice actors to sing along, not just Danny Jacobs. And I always think it sounds really nice when they do that.
Yeah, especially in the chorus, "The summer starting now." That one, I love those.
Yeah, that's definitely Alison Stoner doing that.
Mm-hmm. I guess We wanted to keep this first intro episode a little on the shorter side, so I guess to start wrapping up, looking ahead to the rest of the season, we have access to the episode titles, they're all public, as well as like descriptions, like brief synopses on the wiki fandom page. I've only looked at a couple of them, to be honest. I haven't studied it too deeply. I guess 2 questions. Number 1, are you guys both, do you like to look ahead? Do you like to read ahead to that stuff and anticipate? And number 2, what are any particular fun predictions of any degree, outlandish or not, that you have for this season?
I'm looking forward. There's a few episode titles that make me kind of excited. I think Agent T for Teen is presumably going to be an episode involving Stacy and Perry, which is a really fun arc that they did not fully explore after they set it up in season 4. There's one called More Than an Intern, which I think will be fun to see, a Carl-centric episode.
Oh, I'm just realizing there's one called A Chip to the Vet. My quick prediction for that one is that Perry is always going away, so they decide to get him microchipped. So now Perry has to figure out how to go fight Doof without getting microchipped. That's
like fight him remotely or something? That could be really cool.
That's my prediction. Ooh, there's an episode called Tropey McTrope Face. I don't know what that's about, but as a screenwriter, I love tropes, and so I'm hoping that that's just kind of like a satire of tropes from different genres. I don't know.
Wait, Zach, are you also, like Andrew, unfamiliar with Bodie McBoatface?
Oh, I feel like you've mentioned Bodie McBoatface to me before, but I'm forgetting what it is.
Yeah, this was basically like, I think a British Navy boat that they were doing like a public vote on what it should be named, and then suggestion Bodie McBoatface won in a landslide, and then they like canceled the competition or something like that. This was like 2011.
That's on them.
I love people.
Yeah,
that's great.
Mm-hmm. I'm very, very excited for Deconstructing Doof, which according to the wiki, this short synopsis, Candace and Doof see the same psychologist who thinks their experiences may be connected. Which I like for the fact, even just both Doof and Candace going to see a psychologist is interesting enough by itself, but the psychologist maybe starting to like piece something together is
Also,
there.
just looking at the picture for Deconstructing Doof, that psychologist just looks like, the quality of how they've designed him looks like he's going to be voiced by a guest star.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know who that guest star is going to be.
Yeah. I hope it's Michael Bublé, even though he's also singing a song. I hope he gets to be the psychologist.
What if the entire time he's like, Doof says everything and he's just like, I'm not surprised. This all sounds correct. Like,
yeah. Not to inject my own fanfic into this too much, but I always thought the idea of Candace and Doofenshmirtz discovering the fact that their fates are intertwined is a really cool concept, and is something I try to put in MWCA. So I think if the show's possibly exploring that's just inherently very fascinating to see.
Yeah.
And then also, this is a given, but meet me in St. Louis. It's gonna be great.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see how they, presumably if they do what they did with Meepless in Seattle, they have to interject all of the clips of the trailer they put at the end of the last one into Meet Me in St. Louis, regardless of how forced it is.
Oh, and then they're going to have a trailer for another Meep episode that has the word. My prediction is Marley and Meep. But, but I don't think. But they might not do that.
About a dead dog.
Oh man, I wish I should have put more thought into it. Marley and Meep is a good one.
One thing that I think is worth bringing up is one of the clips they have at the end of Meepless in Seattle for the next episode is like Jeremy coming into a church and being like, "I object to this, Your Honor," or maybe it's like a wedding. I
object to this union.
I object to this union, Your Honor.
The South and the Civil War.
It's worth noting we have not seen Jeremy in any of these clips, and we don't know if Mitchell Musso is reprising his role as Jeremy. We see in Summer Blockbuster, I think Coltrane and Stacy and Jenny are all hanging out. Presumably, I think it'd be weird if Jeremy was just like missing from the season, but what do we think is going on with that?
Well, we know that Mitchell Musso himself got into some legal trouble, which I would imagine is the reason he is not on the cast list anywhere.
Though he has played the character as recently as Candace Against the Universe.
That is true. My I feel like the fact that we haven't heard anything about it is that they're going to maybe have some passing references to him, but he won't be important at all, which is a little too bad because I feel like, honestly, out of all the roles, Jeremy would not have been too hard to recast if they couldn't didn't want to get Mitchell Musso back.
Right.
And I feel like that one would have caused a minimal outrage among the fans. So
Sure.
that would be too bad if they really knew Jeremy.
I'd also be personally disappointed if he wasn't in the season at all, because going back to what I think you can do by setting the show a season later and getting some subtle nuance is like Jeremy and Candace presumably are just in a relationship now. They're not like, you know, oh, does he like me? Can I use the B word? Like, I think they could have a little bit more like, you know, just fleshing out their characters and what their relationship looks like by setting it as summer later. So I think it'd be a shame if he wasn't there at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not too optimistic about that one, unfortunately.
I don't know, because I feel like there have been instances of Disney Channel being really specific about who gets in legal trouble and who they keep around and who they don't.
Just look at the saga of Pair of Kings.
But it is really weird that he's not anywhere on the cast list. Wait, I'm just now seeing the guest actors. John Stamos. John Stamos is going to be the therapist. That's my...
Oh, well, they said
doing
who
a
John
Meep
Stamos
voice.
is playing.
Oh!
Yeah, he's one of Meep's...
in that case, Jonathan Banks.
Sure.
Yeah, Jonathan
Okay,
Banks
go
is
for
going to
it.
be... He's from Breaking...
Wait, he's the Walter.
He's from Breaking Bad.
Oh, dude, he's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, and wait, Leslie Jones is going to be in this? I just saw that.
Yeah, we're looking at the list of upcoming guest stars.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, that's funny that Anna Faris is in this because one thing that one of the show creators, Swampy, does in his free time is race cars. And I got to go see Swampy do a public race at the Irwindale Speedway like 2 years ago. It was like a celebrity race. And Anna Faris was one of the people he was racing against, so I wonder if that's what put them in touch.
Yeah, he started schmoozing from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is looking to be a very good and very exciting season, and I'm very happy that I'm going to be watching it with some of my closest friends and then talking about it. Like, I'm very excited for this podcast. I also need to, before the rest of the episodes, get a thesaurus, because I've said the word excited like 10 times during this podcast, and I need to have more verbiage next time.
You need words that kids haven't heard before.
Yeah.
Like serendipitous.
That's, well, yeah.
Well, I don't know if that applies here.
No, but that is a word that kids maybe haven't heard before. So there you
Unless
go.
they've seen the movie Serendipity, but then again, I doubt they have because that's a rom-com, but neither here nor there.
Or flop stars. Anyway, and anyone have any final words before we wrap this baby up?
Yes, serendipitous.
Beautiful. Andrew?
That's my final word.
I'm trying to remember that word that they say in the Fireside Girl episode where they get the saying a word no one else in the room knows patch, but I can't remember what the word is.
Me neither.
That will be the very first word we say in episode 2
So stay tuned for
Afterferb, the Phineas and Ferb discussion podcast.
Indeed. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel if you aren't already, or Spotify if that's where you're listening to it. We still got to figure out exactly where this is going to be. But anyway, subscribe. We're going to be reviewing these episodes as they air on Disney Channel. So a few every week. We're going to be having some guests on for some segments. Maybe we'll try and even get a few higher profile names. We'll see, no guarantees yet. And you can also follow the Instagram, MWCA.musical. That's what it is, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
It's MWCA.musical on, I think, everything. I think Twitter's different, but we don't use that anymore.
And then do we want to plug ourselves real quickly?
Sure. I'll go first. You can follow my music Instagram, which is alex.m.music. I'm working on a musical called Purple Stiltskin. So yeah, that's my main thing. That's me.
It's me, Andrew. You can find me at Nachos Rule, Nachos spelled with a Z, on most platforms. Although if you're looking for Phineas and Ferb content, yeah, just check Musical Without a Cool Acronym and all of the associated videos out on YouTube.
And I'm at Zach Timson on everything. A couple quick plugs. If you're in Los Angeles, I'm in a production of Star Kids, The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals at Mission Opera in the middle of June, so come see that. With Ben from MWCA. Ben plays Buford. He's one of our roommates, and he's in the show with me.
He doesn't play Buford in...
Yeah, I was gonna say,
not the guy who didn't like musicals.
Is Buford the guy who didn't like musicals?
Yeah, Alex and I are writing a show together. Details to be announced later, so please be on the lookout for a Zach Timson, Alex Meleras collaboration. And as always, watch the Who Was show on Netflix. Gotta keep plugging that.
Until next time, as we always say, cloudy with a chance of mom.
We always say that?
Cloudy
I'm
with
always
a chance
saying
of
that.
mom.
Cloudy with a chance of mom. Okay, sounds good.
The end.
Bye.
Hey, I know what we're gonna analyze. The episodes in season 5. Hope it brings you laughter. This is